Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. So, in continuing on with our demonstration and sort of initial project here in Bodypaint, let me show you a few more things to get you familiar with the tools, how to do things, and to demonstrate some of the really powerful features of this wonderful program. Okay, so we've gone ahead and applied our texture. We've laid out our UV maps here. The thing that's cool is you can still change the UVs on your object, and the material automatically reflects that change. Well, let's come back to a modeling layout. And I'm afraid every time I change, I'm going to have to change my screen size as well, reorient the interface here on my screen. Let's get rid of this thing. I don't want it anymore. I'm going to come over here to my primitives and let's click on a capsule. Let's work on this. Well, in order to do anything with it, we need to make it editable, so I'm going to click on the edit button there. Now come back over to my UV layout. Now the layout that I have shown here on the screen is not one of the typical ones that comes with it. It's my own custom one, and I would strongly encourage you to check out some of the tutorials over at C4DCafe.com, because there are lots of video tutorials that will walk you through how to set up the interface here exactly how you want. And it's so important to have the tools that you most commonly use and want to use and are familiar with right here on hand. So all you need to do is click, 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 rather than have to find out, or rather than have to hunt and search and dig through the various menus up here and try to locate them that way. Once you're familiar with the tools and you like using various tools, pop them right up here. And if we have time at the end of this demo, I will maybe spend a few minutes and show you how to very quickly do that. Okay, so we've got we have our texture. Let's apply that to our capsule, and let's just click off of it. Well, that doesn't look really good. I don't really care for that. Let's try something here. Let's disable that. I want to show UVs. This is the default UV layout that it gives us, and actually that will work quite well because it'll allow us to apply our texture to it without it being distorted in any way, with the exception of the top and the bottom. And I'll show you one of probably the best feature about Bodypaint on how to solve that problem, and it makes using this program, it makes painting your objects, texturing your objects so much fun. Well, this is the orientation of our texture on our object, and I'm going to go ahead and repaint this because I don't like how scaled down this. I don't like the small scale of our texture. So I'm going to go here and find our texture again. Now I wouldn't normally have to do this. It saves the texture, but I had to stop the program and restart it again, Bodypaint, because I was doing some other work while the first tutorial was rendering. So let's come over here to the Scale tab. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, we can probably bump the scale down a little bit. There we go. That looks good. And notice, because this is not a seamless texture, we have the seam visible here where edge of the texture is. Well, if you didn't have Bodypaint and you had a lesser applicable or a less able program, you would have to do a lot of manual work in order to fix this. Either drag this texture into Photoshop and make it a seamless texture, or reorient your UVs, let's select all of them, so that they don't run into the edges of your texture, such as in this case. Well, I want to be able to maximize everything, so I'm going to leave those seams on my texture, and I'll show you how to very quickly repair that. Okay, so we've got our texture on our object, but I don't like those seams, and if you look at the top, you can see how the texture is squeezed at the top because of the layout of the UV map. It's kind of like a belly button up there. Well, I don't like that either. So we have a little repair work to do. And this is so easy. What I will do is come over here to Attributes. I want my brush to have a soft edge, so I'm going to bring the hardness all the way down. Let me zoom in here, and I will use my open bracket key on my keyboard to reduce the size of my paintbrush. Now, Bodypaint has this cool little feature called projection painting. If I were just to paint on it right now, it really wouldn't have any different effect. Nothing's happening. But if I choose this button right here and click on it, notice immediately this yellow square becomes visible on my perspective view. That lets me know I'm in projection painting, and of course this icon here is highlighted. Now if I come over here and paint on my object, I am painting with my texture, and it is covering up that seam. I mean, this is a live paint demonstration right here on my texture. And I can paint on that little belly button down at the bottom, and that goes away. Now, depending upon the size of your texture, mine's pretty small, it's only 1200 by 1200, it may take a little time for this window to refresh every time you use it. When you paint on it, it doesn't really look like a whole lot is happening. You need to refresh it by just adjusting the object on the screen. There we are. Get rid of that little belly button. Oh, we have another seam here. Let's paint there. And I can still make adjustments to the rotation and the scaling of this texture while I am doing this. Nothing is locked solid. Nothing is forbidden. You really have such power and flexibility right here in this program. Okay, let's zoom out, turn off projection painting, and let's look for any seams that we might have. Well, I think we've got them all. Now, if you don't want to use a round brush, you can click on this icon here, and you've got a whole bunch that come with the program, or you can create your own brushes in Photoshop and use them here. Now, I am using Bodypaint 3, Release 3, and Cinema 4D 10.1. My version does not allow for the use of native Photoshop brushes, the ABR brushes. So if I want to create my own custom brush, I have to do it as a black and white image and then bring it into Bodypaint. The new version of Bodypaint lets you use all the Photoshop brushes in your brush collection, which is really nice. I think maybe when release 12 comes out of Cinema 4D and the next version of Bodypaint, I'll see what new features that program has, and I might be upgrading to that one at that time. So there you've got a seamless, custom painted material on our object. Well, that looks nice. Let's take it a little step further. Let's add a new layer above that. Paintbrush selected. Come over here to colors. Let's add a new material on top of that. Go to my thumbs and let's find another texture that can go on there. Let's look at a larger view of that. I'm going to open with the Windows Picture and Fax Viewer. Lets me see a larger version of it. That'll work. Let's click on this, and now the image is loaded. And also, something I failed to mention, let me go back and load the rust material. Something that's neat is I will come back over here and paint those seams back on our texture just like we did before. Let me hide the UV mesh so it's a little bit easier to see. Not only can you scale and rotate, there we are, under the Colors tab, not only can you scale and rotate, but check this out. You can shift the horizontal and vertical position of the texture on your material here. If you notice here, source X and Y, I'm going to, and keep your eye out on this little preview window here. I'm going to move, or actually it's this one right here, excuse me. I'm going to move the texture to the left. Now when I paint, notice the texture has been nudged over a little bit to the left. So not only does that allow you to place various portions of the texture exactly where you want it, but two, you can avoid seams by positioning them, say, off of the side of your UV mesh. And you can also tile it up and down as well. And you can see the result here in this little preview window. You can see how it goes up and down. Okay, so let me now choose another. Let me delete this. Delete that layer, get back to our original one. Let me choose a new layer and go to that metal texture, wherever it is. There it is, metal rust. Let's paint this. I think this is a seamless material. I might want to bump the scale up a little bit. And it looks like we have a little bit of a seam there, but you know what? We can fix that. And I'm not going to fix it here because I've already shown how to, but just like in Photoshop, you can adjust the blending modes of your layer to create many, many different looks. And this program has a few extra different blending adjustments than Photoshop does. Now here's the thing that I have learned. These are all the blending modes. Some of them are not Photoshop compatible. darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, lighten, screen, color dodge, all these are the same as in Photoshop. Linear light stamp, I don't believe that is. Pin light, hard mix, difference, exclusion, reflect. No, I don't think reflect is. Negation isn't. Glow isn't. Average, freeze, and heat. These are not. If you save this texture and open it up into Photoshop and you have a plot and you have a layer with a blending mode that does not appear in Photoshop, Photoshop won't recognize it and it automatically will default to a normal blending mode setting. So if you want, so let's say I like that look. If I want to bring this into Photoshop and do some additional enhancements to it, then I have to realize that this appearance won't be the same in Photoshop. On the other hand, a workaround for that is to simply click here, link those two layers together, right click and come down here to merge linked, and now it will merge those two together. Now this is just a typical Photoshop file with two layers, each set to normal on their blending mode. So now if you bring it into Photoshop, you'll have no problems doing some further enhancements. Okay, so that's it for this. I'm going to come back to a modeling layout mode. Actually, let's come to the startup layout scheme here. Okay, let's say I want to add some tools to the toolbars here. Well, I've got these shortcut tools down here. I've got some along the side, and I've got some along the side. And I want to modify them, say, with tools that I use on a regular basis. The easy way to do that is to come up here to Windows, come here to Layout, and we need to come down here to our Command Manager, which will open up this way, Window. Another way to do it is simply to come up here, right click, and well, maybe it's not. Actually, you can let's just come up here to Windows, Layout, Command Manager, and I think Shift F12 will also do the same thing. Let me move this down here out of the way. We need to edit these shortcut palettes. The ones here on the left, up to the top, and down to the bottom. So the first thing I want to do is click on Edit Palettes. And when I did that, notice these blue outlines around all the various tools. I'll click off and click on again so that you can see. Now I'm in Edit Palette mode. Let's say I want to add, let's say when I save my program, I don't want to have to come up here to File and Save. I just want to be able to click a button here and save the file. Well, I've got a whole host of options here, and I really don't want to have to try to find it. So I'm just going to type in the name Save here in the filter. And now I have displayed all of the icons, all of the tools, functions, commands that start with Save. Well, this is the one that I want. So I'm just going to drag it and drop it right there. Or drag it and drop it here. Or drag it and drop it down there, wherever I want. And let's say I want a cube. Oh, there we are. Rather than come up here and have to create a primitive cube, I want to always be able to just click on it down here and instantly create a cube. And you can continue going through this. There's just so many. So I'm done. Oh, there's one thing I want to do. I want to create a separator. You know, these little separators that are between various tools up here. So this is separator 1. I'm just going to drag that down there in between them. And let's say I want another separator here after it. Now if I put another tool down here, I have these separators in between. Well, I'm happy with that. I am done. Let me close that out. If I don't save this, then I will lose all these changes that I have made. So what I need to do is come up here to Window, Layout. I want to save layout as. And let's just call this test. Save that. Now this is my normal modeling layout. I want to come to my new one, so come up here to this icon, click, and there's test, and there we go. There's the layout that I had created, and it's just how I like. So that's how you can quickly edit your palettes to add and remove tools that you want and tools that you don't want. So one last thing. Here we are in modeling mode. We're no longer in body paint or UV or painting mode. And if you notice, the texture on our object looks horrible. By default, in the preview window, Bodypaint will display the texture at 512 by 512. Well, we created it at 1024 by 1024, so it's giving us a downsampled projection or a view of our texture. Well, I want it to look like this. Well, there's two ways. If you're in painting mode, by clicking on the paintbrush, it appears how you want it to. If you're in eyedropper mode, it appears how you want it to. And some of the other modes, it appears how you want it to. If you're in some of the other modes, well, it doesn't look that great. Well, here's how to overcome that problem. Double-click on your texture here. Come down here to Illumination. Click on Illumination. And down here where it says Texture Preview Size. Right now it's set to default. Click that, and maybe it's not even 512 by 512. Maybe it's something lower. But I'm going to choose 1024 by 1024, which is close to or exactly the same resolution as the texture that I made it. So I'll click that, set it at 1024 by 1024, close out of that. Oh, wait a minute, what did I do? There we are, 1024 by 1024. And now it looks a whole lot better. So that's it for this tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. I hope you can benefit from this body paint tutorial and get up and running with it, or maybe you've perhaps learned a few more tools to help you with your modeling work. So that's it. Thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.